What's up, guys? Tait Talks Sports Podcast back here again with the first episode in a while. I know I've been slacking off. I'm sure you guys know there's been a lot going on in the world, but I finished school and I'm ready to get back on these videos. Sports are starting to pick up. I'm ready to cover the news and keep you guys up to date. Might be a shorter episode today, but we're going to talk about the NBA restart along with the Premier League restart in England. Now, as far as the Premier League restart goes, it should be starting up, depending on when you're watching this video, in around a week. It looks to be, a pretty normal startup. All the teams should be joining in. There's actually been a surprisingly low number of positive COVID tests across the Premier League. They haven't said anyone specific or players necessarily that have gotten sick, but it's been a very low number. It's below 20, if not barely higher, but it's been a very low number. And there's been multiple tests done over multiple weeks, and the numbers have been lowering in the Premier League, so it looks good for them to restart. My guess is it probably won't go long. I think Liverpool's, might start slow because everyone's getting back in shape, but I think they'll win a few games, win the games they need to win, and they'll win the league pretty quickly. I don't think there'll be much, of a comeback necessarily for other teams, but I think Liverpool's going to come out and win it in not long after the restart. Now, to the important matter, the NBA restart. Now, this is just today as I'm making this video. The restart got moved from July 31st to July 30th. Not a big change there, one day earlier, happy about that, but just a one-day change, probably scheduling stuff. But by the looks of it, they're going to be doing their restart in Disney in Orlando. They're going to be doing it on a sports complex there, along with the MLS, the U.S. Soccer League. They're both going to be restarting there. They're basically going to be confined to that space in a way. I'm going to cover that in a little bit. But they're going to bring 22 teams back, 9 teams from the East, 13 from the West. Basically any teams that were either in the playoffs or in the race for the 8th spot. So in the East, it obviously wasn't that many, just the one team in the race for the 8th spot and then the 8th spot. But obviously the West is a bit more competitive in that 8th spot. You've got, the Trailblazers, you've got the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, all those teams who are either in the 8th spot or very close to being in that 8th spot. And what it looks like they're going to do is they're going to come back in July, late July, and they're going to start doing some regular season games. They'll probably not do a whole lot. My guess is around 10 regular season games. Probably just going to finish out the regular season because there honestly wasn't that many games. I'm not sure how they're going to do it necessarily because obviously not all the teams are back, so the schedule isn't going to be the same. It'll be interesting to see what they do there. But they're going to finish up that, and then they're going to have a play-in for the 8th seed if the records don't decide it in the regular season games. And so when that happens, then you'll have the set. They're not going to change anything like people were kind of hoping they were, maybe a 16 team seeding rather than East and West for the playoffs, but looks like they're just going to keep it how it is. And then they'll go into the playoffs. That'll happen as usual, it seems like. And they are saying the finals are going to land around early to mid-October. And so, that's not for a while, obviously. But it's better than nothing, better than it being canceled to me personally. So I'm pretty excited about that. There's been a couple people wondering, is Kevin Durant going to play when the Nets come back? Will he be healthy? And, obviously he probably will be healthy, but he's said that he's not going to come back for the finish of this regular season. And as well, Kyrie Irving of the Nets said he won't be back. My guess is he probably won't be back at all, but they're saying he won't be back for the regular season games, might come back for the playoffs. We'll see how that works out, but I think it'll be interesting to see what players are in shape, what players aren't. Players like Giannis have said, I'm sure he's figured out now, but towards the beginning of this quarantine, he said he didn't have access to a hoop at all. I'm sure that's changed now, obviously, but, some players not having a hoop for a while could really affect their game. We'll see how it is. Hopefully the regular season games will allow them to get back into the mix, and hopefully players will be in shape. Players like LeBron, AD, all that stuff need to be good, so it's entertaining and not just a mess. Back to the bubble concept in Orlando. So they're talking about it being, the players being relatively confined to that Orlando spot. In an interview, Jared Dudley of the Lakers player said that they're not necessarily forced to stay in the resort and around the gyms and stuff. They're allowed to leave, but they're going to be tested basically every day all the time. So if they come back positive obviously they can't play and they're going to have to be quarantined. So it's kind of a thing of be responsible. You know, if you're a big player, if you're an Anthony Davis, if you're LeBron, Giannis, you're not going to want to be dumb and go out. You know, you don't want to go to the bar and then come back and you've got COVID in your team. You've let down your team when you could, especially with, you know, Anthony Davis or someone, have a chance to win a championship, and then you've ruined that for them. It kind of, I guess, is the incentive part. But maybe the restrictions may be a bit more strict than Dudley was making it seem, because recently there's been a few players and players in the Players Association making groups that actually aren't sure if it's a good idea to restart at all, which Woj has reported that said that they're not getting much traction with those arguments, but it's mostly, you know, they did say that the NBA is going to not punish anyone who stays home. So if a player like LeBron says, nope, I don't want to risk it, I'm staying home, then that's just going to be how it is. But I can't imagine that he would do that. But, you know, that's what they're saying right now. So there's a lot of players against this Orlando bubble. But that's basically all we have on the NBA right now. There's a few more stuff, but, you know, nothing monumental that, you know, changes everything. So one more thing, they did increase the roster size. So the player roster is allowed to have 17 rather than 15 for the end of this season, probably to get, you know, more rest for players, just have more rotation. You know, I don't know how beneficial it'll be, especially for teams like the Lakers. You know, they're very top heavy in their lineup, which is not a bad thing. They're a championship team. They're just top heavy. Adding 2 players that probably won't play anyway, you know, especially in the playoffs, but I guess it's probably good for the regular season games. But I think it's good for rest, but realistically, where are you going to find two extra quality players that you can't sign for big money because of the cut restrictions? It's just very complicated to see how that'll work. But that's pretty much all the news I have for now. I'm going to be back posting videos in the coming weeks, hopefully once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that, as long as news is coming out. I'm really excited to be making these videos again. I'm excited for you to watch them. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.